You're awake right now, and you're not having a terrible, terrible dream. Also, you're not dead, and you haven't gone to hell. Unquote. Rachel Maddow, a former host at CNN, spoke those words into the camera following the 2016 election. Late night host Jimmy Kimmel had similar words following the 2024 election. Quote, "It was a terrible night for women and children, for poor people, for the middle class, for democracy and decency." Unquote. But Rachel Maddow didn't really believe that following the 2016 election, the country would undergo hell-like conditions. Jimmy Kimmel didn't actually believe, despite his tears, that women and children would suffer for the next 4 years under a new president. Even if those who spout falsehoods do not actually believe them, those falsehoods influence others around them. Family, books, teachers, movies, and friends shape personal beliefs. But one group of these influences sits behind shiny desks. This group brazenly declares what is right and what is wrong, who should have power and who deserves insult. This group is a subset of political commentators, and their worldview of false outrage and moral confusion has corrupted the morality of millions of Americans. In this speech, we will discuss first what false outrage is, next how it replaces true morality, and finally the growing reach of false outrage. In the introduction, we saw instances where media figures were outraged, but their outrage wasn't real. It was a show for the camera. False outrage. By definition, false outrage is not real. It is a purposeful exaggeration of anger, shock, or indignation. As writers for The Minimalist, a blog that encourages simple living, put it, quote, "We've all gotten offended without asking ourselves why, and then used our fake outrage to cast judgment upon others. We do this, we judge people, because it helps us feel better. And pretending to be offended is much easier than attempting to breach the walls of introspection." According to this worldview, false outrage fulfills the moral duty of compassion. To fake anger is to do good. This twisted worldview has morality backwards. Faking anger on behalf of others is not compassion. It is false righteousness. Author Glenn Beck describes the human effect of this in his book, Addicted to Outrage. Quote, "It deprives human beings of genuine humanity, replacing instead with an outwardly facing caricature of a virtuous human being wrapped around a rotting corpse." Unquote. The media belief that false outrage is a moral act stems from deeper moral confusion. Concisely, the media worldview maintains that saying good words amounts to or even surpasses doing good. Joshua Grubbs, an associate professor of psychology at the University of New Mexico, and his colleagues investigated moral grandstanding. The results showed why people take exaggerated moral stands publicly. Quote, "Participants self-reported their motivation for moral grandstanding as status seeking." Unquote. Members of the media hope to heighten their status in the eyes of others by taking strong stands where they feel they have the moral high ground. Another late-night host, Stephen Colbert, has done exactly that. Quote, "I'm sure it's just a coincidence, but in 1939 they held a pro-Nazi rally there." Unquote. With this remark, Colbert insinuated that Trump is Nazi adjacent. Having created a straw man out of Trump, an evil Nazi, Stephen Colbert spared no words, swearing at Trump live on national television. His statements make sense within a worldview which treats moral grandstanding, even at exaggerated or symbolic evils, as an act of virtue. False outrage doesn't stay online. It doesn't hide behind screens. Humans copy the behaviors and worldview of people they spend their time around. Talk show hosts and media figures consume a significant portion of many people's days. Logically, the worldview of these influences seep into the culture. Unfortunate statistics demonstrate this. According to the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression, a free speech organization, quote, "This year more than 2/3 of college students said that shouting down a speaker is at least rarely acceptable." The report continued, quote, "Even more concerning, about 1/3 of students reported that using violence to stop a campus speech is at least rarely acceptable," end quote. The report noted that these numbers have risen significantly over the past few years. 3 years ago, my grandparents and I went to the March for Life in Washington, D.C. When the march ended, I kept my poster as a souvenir. A woman on the sidewalk saw me carrying my poster and began screaming at then 13-year-old me, telling me I should never participate in a march. Likely, her beliefs came from political commentators online, but they caused her to take action in the real world. She believed yelling at 13-year-olds about politics makes you a better person. False outrage seeps into the real world. There, it causes even more harm. As this report has laid out, the worldview of some political commentators celebrates false outrage. Even these specific media figures do not deserve all the blame, but their worldview does deserve the blame. Their worldview is false. Fake outrage isn't a virtue. Moral grandstanding is not a good deed. The moral confusion of media hosts has eroded the genuine compassion of millions and transformed it into false outrage.